how consciousness works with the physical body, the astral dream body, artificial bodies, and with our higher benevolent ascended bodies. Today's discussion is going through step by step how consciousness works with the various bodies that we have access to. So to begin, when we are born, each of us is given a pure, virginal piece of consciousness. This consciousness comes from the container called soul. Soul is just a container that holds consciousness that isn't doing anything without the divine blueprint. Consciousness is then attached to the divine blueprint. I have many videos on these things, so I'm moving on. The divine blueprint is what constructs bodies in different realities, because without form and some sort of body, consciousness is not aware of itself and can grow and expand. So consciousness for us, because our blueprint is multidimensional, our consciousness is multidimensional, there are higher beings on our unique blueprint. So we are in third, our blueprint can go fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. In the eighth and ninth and higher densities up to the paradise sun levels, they can actually work with the divine blueprint to create life. And these are known throughout all the levels as pattern keepers. And I have talked about pattern keepers. That is something I'm in training for, is understanding how to be a pattern keeper. So with every conscious avatar that is born on earth, there is an advanced pattern keeper in higher frequencies, 8th or 9th on your blueprint, that is deciding and constructing and developing what kind of consciousness in what kind of reality will be created. Our consciousness is clean and pure. What we start out with when we are born is determined by our divine blueprint and the divine beings within our blueprint that have decided what we will experience and what kind of consciousness we will have. So let's just start at the basic idea. When here on this planet you go through a birth scenario where you must start out as an infant, but that infant is not without knowing and without the ability to understand. That infant that is inside the womb has already been generating its lineage in which it was born into, because all memory that you have comes from your genetic lineage. So when you are put together as an embryo and begin to form a human body, your pure divine consciousness, which is attached to the blueprint, uses the electromagnetic blueprint. There's also like a lower blueprint, uses the electromagnetic blueprint as well as the astral blueprints to inform and to develop what the baby is going to understand. That baby already has DNA. That baby has genetics. That baby has full access. The consciousness of that baby has full access to that family's lineage. The parents, the mother and the father, have thousands and thousands of years of memories buried in their DNA, in their genetic memory. So the baby already has a set of principles and foundation in how to operate on this planet and how to relate to the reality around them, the parents and the objects and the sounds and the senses and all these things. The consciousness is being imprinted in. So if the consciousness is like a blank piece of film, this consciousness is immediately imprinted with the entire DNA and genetic lineage of both your mother and father. So now consciousness, while still as a baby, has all the information of thousands and thousands of years already being imprinted on it before the baby is even born. Also, the higher beings within your divine blueprint determine how much expansion this new baby is going to be able to achieve with that consciousness. In other words, consciousness has unlimited potential, but from third density and with our influences that we have once we are born, and we now have the world bombarding us with their influences, how much growth can this avatar accomplish with the limited and very narrow sensory and very limited and narrow understanding of life? And we have a very narrow view of life here, but it's growing and expanding. So the higher beings in your blueprint, I have a video on that I met my ascended self. There's a video on that. That ascended being that I met is what decided what kind of consciousness I would have. She created me, essentially. She is my creator, and she is a part of my divine blueprint. So she has determined how many levels of consciousness I will be able to access. Doesn't mean I will. It means your potential is put in when you are born. You have the potential for fourth density. Maybe you have potential for fifth. Maybe you have potential for sixth. But those potentials are also added into your divine blueprint. And if you can achieve freedom from the astral worlds, which 99% of the people don't, if you can though, it's not that you can't, it's that we've never been taught. This is why I'm here to teach. You can access higher frequencies of consciousness. You just need to understand this. So this potential is put inside of you as well. So when you are born, your consciousness is already fully equipped. It has access to thousands of years of information. It has access to multidimensional consciousness up the blueprint. It has direct access to the angelic ascended being that was working to create you, the pattern keeper that created you. It has all kinds of help. So now we want to move to the astral dream body. The astral dream body is in this reality a bridge between Earth, the density of Earth, and fourth density, which is a higher frequency from here. That astral body, however, is a genetic, well, that's the wrong word. It's a copy, it's a complete copy of what is transpiring with consciousness in physical reality, in the human body. So here's why we become trapped and why that billions and billions of people never leave the astral world, never leave Earth frequency, never leave third density. Because our astral bodies are a mirror image of our physical body, and it is strongly anchored in our emotional patterns and our belief systems. And so pretty much everything positive and negative that you have experienced on Earth, now the astral body when you're born is similar to the physical consciousness reality in that it's not imprinted until this baby begins to experience life. So the astral body gets imprinted more strongly as you live your life. And the older you are, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, the stronger that imprint is in the astral world. In the astral world, we have tons of our emotions that we're constantly dealing with, our belief systems, our fears, our desires, our seductions, our addictions to our family, our addictions to drugs, to alcohol, to food, to cigarettes, to sex, to every kind of addiction. So there is a hodgepodge of frequency patterns that are attached to our astral body, astral purgatory body. So when consciousness drops this body, this physical body, the frequency that it automatically shifts to is the one closest to it, which is the astral body. The astral body. And this body is what continues on after you drop this body. Now, this astral body is controlled by consciousness and controlled by the divine blueprint. And so this is why consciousness survives after death, because everything that was imprinted before you were born and while you lived is imprinted on the astral body. And so consciousness merely shifts its 100% into that astral body. And while you are living, when you have lucid dreams and astral travel and any kind of dreams, you're in your astral body. We spend every night in our astral bodies. It's just a second skin that we wear. We are so comfortable with that astral body. This is consciousness I'm speaking of. So everything we experienced with our brains, with our emotions, with our genetic memory, with the patterns the earth gave us, that is imprinted on the astral body and continues on in the astral world. So consciousness is still alive, still functioning, and still working in the astral worlds. The issue is why we've been so trapped is because we take all of our beliefs and all of our emotions into the astral world, and we just keep living the life we lived here. We go, and most everybody, when they die, they're greeted by their dead relatives, your dead parents, your dead grandparents, and you wander off with your dead relatives and you go live somewhere in the astral worlds, just like you lived here. You live in a house. I visited a lot of my deceased relatives in the astral world. I've seen all kinds of people in the astral worlds that have passed over. I'm very familiar with the astral worlds. I've been lucid dreaming since I was 7. And so that you live, if you were very attached to a business or an invention, you live that identity over there. If you were very attached to your kids, you live that identity over there. And you may be so attached to your children that you hover as like a ghost in the same reality as your family, and you never leave. Literally, you're anchored to the earth. And so those people who have been able to free themselves, some from their family lineage, and they have freed themselves, some from their addiction to their work or their career, they may move into the astral worlds that are a little more expanded, where they are expressing more spiritual ideas. But you have to be spiritually awakened to do that, and that is beginner disciple. Most people who are not traditional, aspirant and below, see my 7 levels, but are now experiencing all these different new age ideas and extraterrestrial ideas. They're beginner disciple. They dabble in meditation. They have undisciplined minds, undisciplined emotions. Everybody pretty much I know is pretty much like 60 to 70% aspirant with maybe 30 to 40% disciple. Those people still go into the astral worlds, but they may go into a little higher level of the astral worlds. And if you can break free of the addictions and fear patterns of the astral enough, you can rise into higher astral worlds where you can get contacted by beings from your divine blueprint. And they work with you in those higher astral planes to move out of the astral fields altogether and into 4th density. Now, the bodies beyond astral, the next one, well, let me mention, I said artificial. I want to mention this because this needs to be understood, because we are now at a point where people are talking about virtual reality and artificial intelligence, AI, and creating these sort of artificial bodies and transferring all our memories into this body, and now there you are. So let me explain how consciousness works. Consciousness becomes conscious when it has a foundation of information and it is operating in its divine blueprint, which is the guiding divine intelligent energy that had created consciousness to begin with. So can consciousness grow and evolve in something that doesn't look biological? Yes. So the idea that androids could become conscious? Yes. I have a video back in my videos on your spiritual gifts and powers. I have a video on working with nature where I talk about these pods that were created out of copper and crystals and geometrical and mathematical equations, and how I infused consciousness into that pod. You can create consciousness. And I have a history of alchemy. I had my own lab, so I've studied a lot of the alchemical text on consciousness and infusing consciousness. Consciousness just needs a form, and the form has to be filled with information, and it has to be in harmony with the divine blueprint, so that the flow of divine intelligence is working through the form. Can there be a misalignment where people are dabbling with alchemical type procedures where they are infusing really base consciousness into something? Yes. But it is not being supported or nurtured by divine intelligence. It has its own intelligence that is actually feeding off the astral energy of the Creator. So follow me here. I may lose a bunch of you, but follow me here. Our astral bodies are what do a lot of the, quote, earth magic in the world. And our astral bodies can feed energy and create lower life form, brief consciousness, very basic consciousness into inanimate objects. But it's living off our astral energy. It's not attached to the divine blueprint, living off the divine blueprint energy. So with artificial intelligence, it's the same way. You can take a form and you can download a lot of, quote, like genetic memories, but in this case it would be data. It would be data memories. It would be information data, and you can put, millions and billions of data information into that body, and the body can function. But then in order for it to have consciousness has to have come from somewhere, because the body filled with intelligent data, like a robot, isn't conscious without consciousness anchored to a blueprint and anchored to that body. So this is why, in order to create this idea of transferring your consciousness into a android type body, you have to transfer the consciousness from your astral body into the android body. And that can be done. I talk a lot about transferring your consciousness. I have a lot of videos on that, but I'm just talking about artificial right now. As long as the beings who are working with this, not anything inhuman, there's no one on earth who can do this, friends. But the fourth and fifth density beings can, as long as they can contain your astral body. I've had some videos on how your astral body can be captured or taken away, but in a positive way. It can be contained in a positive way and transferred. It can be transferred into an android type body. It can be transferred into clones, another you. The body is filled with the data and information from your genetics there, and now you're just taking the astral information and you're moving the astral body, which has the consciousness in it, and you're moving that consciousness into that fresh, clean clone. So now the next step from there, I know each one of these topics could be discussed in an entire video, so I would spend hours. I'm trying to move a little bit farther down the line. So with fourth density, where many of you will be going for the Great Migration, in fact, most of you will be, if you can get out of the astral, which is what I'm trying to teach, if you can get out of the astral, you can go into fourth density. Fourth density is the Star Trek worlds. Fourth density, because fourth density has the ability to take your astral information after death and everything that you were as a human being, and it can be transferred into a fourth density body without having to go through a new birth cycle as a baby and all that, because you don't need that. You already have all your conscious information in your astral body. This is why there's no reincarnation. Consciousness keeps growing. You may be in an astral body for hundreds and hundreds or thousands of years, but you're still growing. That consciousness, higher beings know how to take your consciousness and transfer it into a new body, especially beings who are working as pattern keepers. So when you transfer your consciousness into a fourth density body, you cannot do that unless that blueprint, the genetic memory and all your earth experience and the pattern and the densities that your divine blueprint gave you access to, and all of us have access to fourth. Right now, everyone on the planet has access to fourth. You can't go there unless you have already created some kind of pathway to fourth density. It has to be in the consciousness, because consciousness moves around. Consciousness can move from body to body, from lower body to higher body. In that consciousness, in order for it to go to a fourth density body, that consciousness has to have some fourth density experience. It has to have expanded. Remember my videos on going from a lemon to an orange to a grapefruit. It has to have expanded its skills and abilities somewhat to be able to relate to fourth density. And fourth density Star Trek worlds, where most of you will migrate to in the next 200 years, you must be telepathic now, before going. You have to develop your telepathic skills, your premonition skills, your conscious lucid dreaming. You have to have skills that are a natural part of the blueprint of a fourth density being. A fourth density being is naturally telepathic. They travel through time. They're big time travelers in the fourth density. Because fifth density is moved beyond the idea of time, fourth density is still very fascinated with time, but they know how to go backwards and forwards in time. So time travel is something that fourth density does. So in your experience, in my experience, I travel forward in time all the time. I've traveled backwards in time all the time. So if you are time traveling in your astral body, you're getting premonitions of the future. I get premonitions of the future all the time. If you're getting premonitions of the future, if you're traveling back in time and experiencing something, not that you were that person, you're experiencing a piece of time. If you are telepathically receiving messages and you are telepathically communicating with fourth density frequencies and higher, you are setting up that information in your consciousness, so that when this body drops and you're in your let's say you're inclined to go straight to your astral body, your astral body is already primed and prepped for fourth density. And so you will then literally be transferring your consciousness to a fourth density body. And you will have in your divine blueprint, you have higher beings that are 6th, 7th, 8th density beings. Those that are pattern keepers also, they assist you in transferring your consciousness, as well as whatever planetary extraterrestrials you will be transferring to, because 4th density is planetary and 5th density is planetary beings. You will have beings who already understand this information and they can help you transfer too. So you could be transferring directly onto a ship. You could be transferring your consciousness somewhere in inner earth here. There are pockets of places inside the earth that 4th density is living quite comfortably, and they could take you there and work with stabilizing your consciousness there. So then from there, you know, there is a 5th density and a 6th density, and I'm not going to go too much into that today because it's too long a video. But every particular frequency that you would have access to is possible if you have some of that information already embedded in your consciousness before death, before you pass. So right now, friends, we are working to get all of you guys out of the astral and into at least 4th density, and that means developing your spiritual gifts and talents. And then once you're stabilized with some of your spiritual gifts and you are mastering them, you can then keep expanding. If that is possible, you can keep going. So this is what I'm working with this video library, and also with my Patreon group, which is more one-on-one help for you. And if you're serious about growing and not staying stuck in the astral with your aunt or your grandma, then you want to get going on this. This is leading edge, cutting edge information. Nobody else is teaching this. This is new information. And I'm here to help you develop your skills and get your life going in the right direction. So that's my video for today, friends, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for being here.